The horizon floated in the darkness of space like a small silver fish in an endless ocean. It was humanity's first interstellar diplomatic ship, and everyone aboard knew they were making history. Park stood near the medical bay, checking his supplies for the 10th time. He was nervous. They all were. "Stop counting the bandages," said from behind him. She was his fellow medic and closest friend. "You've checked them so many times they might file a complaint." Smiled weakly. "I just want to be ready. We're about to meet aliens, real aliens." "Vampires," she corrected. "Space vampires. Though they've been watching Earth for centuries, apparently. Doesn't that creep you out?" It did, it really did, but was a military medic. His job was to stay calm when everyone else panicked, so he just shrugged and closed his medical kit. The ship's speakers crackled. Captain Lee's voice filled every room. "All personnel report to stations. The vessel is approaching. First contact begins in 30 minutes." And made their way to the observation deck. Through the massive windows they saw it, the ship. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Black as the void itself, shaped like a crescent moon with lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. It was 10 times larger than the horizon. "We're ants to them," someone whispered. Nobody disagreed. The diplomatic meeting took place in the main hall. Earth's lead diplomat stood at the front with Captain Lee beside her, and were positioned near the back, ready to assist if anyone needed medical attention. Then they arrived. They walked through the doors like shadows given form, tall, pale, and impossibly elegant. Their skin was white like snow, their eyes glowed in shades of red and purple, and they moved without making a single sound. Every human in the room felt a primal fear rise in their chest. These creatures were predators. Humans were not. But the one who walked at the front made everyone forget to breathe. Princess Lyra, crown princess of the Empire. She had silver hair that fell past her waist and eyes the color of fresh blood. Her face was cold, expressionless, like a statue carved from ice. She wore armor that looked like liquid darkness, and a thin crown of black metal rested on her head. She was the most beautiful and most dangerous thing had ever seen. "Humans," she said. Her voice was soft but carried across the room like a winter wind. "We have watched your kind for a long time. You have finally reached the stars, impressive for creatures so fragile." Stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "Princess Lyra, on behalf of Earth, we thank you for this meeting. We hope this is the beginning of a peaceful relationship between our peoples." Lyra's red eyes scanned the room slowly. "Peace," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "We shall see." The negotiations began. Understood very little of what was being discussed: trade routes, territory agreements, non-aggression treaties. His job was to watch and wait, so he watched. He noticed the way the guards stood in perfect formation. He noticed the tension in the princess's shoulders, hidden beneath her cold mask. He noticed how her eyes kept moving, scanning, searching. She was afraid of something. Then it happened. One of the guards moved, fast, too fast. A blade appeared in his hand, thin, silver, dripping with something green, poison. He lunged at the princess. Lyra turned, but not quickly enough. The blade sliced across her arm. She stumbled back, her face showing shock for the first time. The green poison spread through her veins, visible beneath her pale skin like lightning. Chaos exploded. Guards clashed. Humans screamed. The assassin was cut down by Lyra's own people, but the damage was done. The princess collapsed. Everyone froze. They stared at their fallen leader. The humans stared at the aliens. Nobody moved. Nobody except Park. He didn't think. He just ran. His legs carried him forward before his brain could tell him to stop. He dropped to his knees beside the princess, his medical kit already open. "What are you doing?" one of the guards hissed, reaching for his weapon. "Saving her life," said simply. "Now back off or she dies." Something in his voice made the guard hesitate. Or maybe it was the way his hands moved, fast, confident, without fear. He examined the wound, studied the poison spreading through her arm. He didn't know biology, but poison was poison, spreading was spreading, and he had dealt with venomous injuries before. He pulled out a tourniquet and tied it above the wound, slowing the poison spread. Then he grabbed a small blade from his kit and made a careful cut, letting the poisoned blood drain. His own hand slipped, and his blood mixed with hers on the floor. "I need clean water," he ordered, "and something to bind the wound, now." To everyone's amazement, they obeyed. A human was giving them orders, and they obeyed. Minutes passed like hours, worked with steady hands, cleaning the wound, applying pressure, monitoring her breathing. The green color in her veins slowly faded. Her breathing stabilized. Then her eyes opened. Crimson met brown. Lyra stared up at the human kneeling over her, this strange creature who had rushed into danger without hesitation. She inhaled deeply, and something changed in her expression. Her nostrils flared, her eyes widened. "This scent," she whispered, "this blood." She reached up and grabbed his wrist. Her grip was like iron, but she wasn't trying to hurt him. She pulled his hand closer, staring at the small cut on his palm where his blood had spilled. The entire room went silent. Lyra sat up slowly, never releasing his wrist. Her eyes had changed. They seemed to glow brighter now with something that looked like wonder, or hunger, or both. "Your blood," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "It sings to me. I have waited 10,000 years for this moment." Stepped forward carefully. "Princess, what do you mean?" Lyra rose to her feet, pulling up with her. She turned to face the assembled crowd, human and alike. Her cold mask had cracked, and beneath it was something fierce and absolute. "This human," she announced, her voice ringing like a bell, "carries the blood of the ancient bond. By the laws of my people, by the sacred rights of I declare my claim." The guards gasped. Some fell to their knees, others looked horrified. "Princess, no," one of them cried. "He is human, he is nothing." But Lyra's grip on his wrist only tightened. She looked at him, really looked at him, and spoke the words that would change two civilizations forever. "This human belongs to me. He is my chosen, my mate, my eternal partner." She raised her chin, daring anyone to challenge her. "And anyone who harms him will answer to me." His mind went blank. He had come here to check bandages and stay in the background. Now a vampire princess was holding his hand and calling him her spouse. He had no idea what was coming next. But somewhere deep inside, he knew his life would never be the same. The great hall erupted into chaos. Nobles shouted in their ancient language. Human diplomats looked at each other in confusion. Guards drew weapons, unsure who to point them at. Park stood frozen, his wrist still locked in Princess Lyra's grip. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. A vampire princess had just claimed him as her mate, in front of everyone, without asking him. "This is madness." A tall stepped forward from the crowd. He was old, ancient, really, with skin like paper and eyes that burned with cold fury. His robes were darker than the others, marked with symbols of authority. "I am High Elder of the Sacred Council. Princess Lyra, you cannot be serious." Lyra turned to face him. Her expression was calm again, her mask of ice firmly back in place. "I am completely serious, Elder. I have invoked it is done." "With a human," his voice dripped with disgust. "These creatures are livestock, they are prey. You would bind yourself to something we eat." Felt sick. Livestock, prey. Is that what humanity was to them? He tried to pull his wrist free, but Lyra held firm. "The does not care about species," Lyra said. "It cares about blood. And this human's blood resonates with my lineage in a way no has matched in 10,000 years. The old texts speak of this. You know they do." His eyes narrowed. "The old texts are myths, children's stories. You shame your ancestors with this foolishness." "I shame no one." Lyra's voice turned cold and sharp like a blade. I am the crown princess. My blood is in the empire. If I say this bond is true, then it is true. Captain Lee stepped forward carefully. He was brave, thought, brave or crazy. "Excuse me," the captain said, "but could someone explain what exactly is happening? What is this?" The fell silent. It was Lyra who answered. "Among my people, thee is sacred. It is the joining of two souls through blood, a connection that lasts beyond death itself. When a finds their bonded one, their blood calls to each other. It cannot be faked. It cannot be forced. It simply is." She paused, looking at for a moment. "I have waited my entire life to feel this call. I never expected it to come from a human." The diplomat stepped beside Captain Lee. Her mind was clearly racing, calculating possibilities. "Princess Lyra, if I understand correctly, this bond would make our medic, your partner, equal to you." "Yes." "And your empire would have to recognize him, protect him." "Yes." "Which means humanity would be connected to the through marriage." Tried to hide her excitement, but could see it in her eyes. "This could change everything." "This changes nothing," slammed his fist against a pillar. The stone cracked. "I will not allow our empire to be polluted by human blood. The council will never accept this." "The council does not decide matters of royal blood," Lyra said. "My father, the emperor, holds that power, and he will support my claim." "We shall see." Turned and swept out of the hall, his robes trailing behind him like shadows. His guards followed. The threat in his departure was clear. After the nobles left, the hall felt empty and cold. Lyra finally released his wrist. He rubbed it, feeling the blood flow return. "I apologize for grabbing you so roughly," she said. Her voice was softer now, meant only for him. "I did not hurt you." Looked at her, really looked. Beyond the beauty and the power, he saw something else. Exhaustion, loneliness, and underneath it all, fear. "I'm fine," he said, "but I have questions." "I imagine you do." Captain Lee approached them. "Medic Park, are you all right?" "I don't know, sir. I think I just got engaged to an alien princess. It's not really covered in the training manual." The captain almost smiled. "Almost. Diplomat, what do we do?" Was already thinking 3 steps ahead. This is an opportunity. If the princess's claim is legitimate, humanity gains an ally at the highest level of the empire. We would no longer be seen as prey, we would be family. "And if the claim fails?" Captain Lee asked. "Then we've made powerful enemies." Looked at Lyra. "Princess, why did you do this, truly?" Lyra was quiet for a moment. "Because it is true. His blood calls to mine. I cannot explain it in words you would understand. But the moment I tasted his scent, I knew. He is the one I have been waiting for." "But you could have stayed quiet," said. Everyone looked at him, surprised that he spoke. "You could have ignored it, pretended it didn't happen. Why announce it to everyone?" Lyra met his eyes. "Because I am tired of pretending. I have spent 300 years being the perfect princess. Cold, controlled, alone. When I felt that connection with you, She stopped as if the words were difficult. "I did not want to let it go." 300 years old. Let that sink in. She was ancient by human standards, but something in her eyes seemed young, vulnerable. "So what happens now?" he asked. "Now you have a choice." Lyra stepped back, giving him space. "The cannot be forced. You must accept it willingly or it means nothing. If you refuse, I will respect your decision. You will return to Earth and we will never speak of this again." "And if I accept?" "Then you come with me to Prime, You will be presented to the Emperor and the Council. You will face challenges and dangers that no human has ever faced. Many will try to kill you. Many will try to destroy what we could build together." Laughed, he couldn't help it. "You're really selling this." "I am being honest. You deserve honesty." Lyra's expression remained serious. "But I will also tell you this. If you accept, I will protect you with everything I have. You saved my life today without knowing me, without expecting reward. That means something. That means everything." The room fell silent. Everyone waited for his answer. He thought about Earth, his small apartment, his routine life. He had joined the military medical corps because he wanted to help people. He wanted to make a difference, but he had never imagined making a difference like this. She was pale, scared for him, but she nodded slightly. She trusted him to make the right choice. He looked at Captain Lee and they were hoping he would say yes. Humanity's future might depend on it. And he looked at Lyra, the vampire princess who had lived for centuries but seemed so alone. Someone had tried to kill her today. The poison, the assassin, someone wanted her dead, and somehow knew this was connected to him, to the bond she had claimed. He wanted to know why. "I accept," he said. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. She had expected him to refuse. He could see it in her face. "You are certain?" she asked. "No," admitted. "I'm terrified, but I didn't become a medic to stay safe. I became a medic to save lives." He took a deep breath. "If this bond is real, if it means something, then maybe I can help save more than one life. Maybe I can help save 2 civilizations." For the first time, Lyra smiled. It was small, barely visible, but it transformed her entire face. "You are strange," she said. "Strange and brave and foolish. Perhaps that is why the blood chose you." She extended her hand to him, not grabbing this time but offering. Took it. And somewhere in the shadows, High Elder watched them with hatred burning in his ancient eyes. This human would die, he swore, whatever it took. The war had already begun. Prime was a world of eternal night. 2 pale moons hung in the purple sky, casting silver light across cities that rose like black mountains from the ground. There was no sun here. They had chosen this world precisely because of that. Park stepped off the transport ship and felt the cold air fill his lungs. It was beautiful, he admitted. Beautiful and deeply unsettling. "Welcome to my home," Lyra said beside him. She seemed different here, more relaxed, more powerful. This was her territory. Walked behind them, carrying their supplies. She had refused to let go alone, and Lyra had permitted her to come as his attendant. Had never been more grateful for a friend. "It's very dark," whispered. "You will adjust," Lyra said. "Or you will not. Either way we must move. The Emperor is waiting." The imperial palace was carved from a single mountain of black stone. It reached so high that its peak disappeared into the clouds. Inside, the halls were lit by floating lights that pulsed with soft blue energy. Statues of ancient warriors lined the walls, their stone eyes seeming to follow every step. And everywhere went, he felt the stares. The servants stopped working to watch him pass. The nobles whispered behind their hands. Guards gripped their weapons as he walked by. He was human. He did not belong here. The Emperor waited on a throne of bones, the bones of enemies, later learned. He was ancient beyond measure, with skin so pale it was almost blue and eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. His name was, and he studied the way a scientist studies an interesting insect. "So," the Emperor said, "you are the human who has captured my daughter's blood." Bowed as Lyra had instructed. "Your Majesty, I am honored to meet you." "Are you?" Leaned forward. "You stand in a palace full of creatures who could kill you in the time it takes your heart to beat once. Honor is a strange word for that situation." "I am still honored," said. "Fear and honor can exist together." The Emperor stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, a dry, rasping sound like wind through dead leaves. "He has spirit. I understand now why the blood chose him," waved his hand. "Very well. I approve the ceremony will take place in 1 month's time. Until then, this human will be treated as a guest of the imperial house." Lyra bowed deeply. "Thank you, Father." "Do not thank me yet." Eyes darkened. "Many will oppose this, Lyra, you know this. The month ahead will test both of you. If the human survives, perhaps he is worthy. If not," he shrugged, "then the problem solves itself." Those words echoed in his mind as the days passed. If the human survives, the Emperor had not promised protection. He had promised a test. The tests came quickly. On the third day, Prince found him in the gardens. Lyra's younger brother was everything she was not: loud, arrogant, and openly hostile. He had her silver hair but none of her control. "So you're the pet my sister brought home," sneered. He circled slowly like a predator examining prey. "I expected something more impressive. You look weak. You smell weak. How did something like you catch the crown princess's attention?" Stayed calm. "I don't know, maybe she has good taste." His eyes flashed with anger. "You dare mock me?" "I'm not mocking anyone. I'm just standing in a garden trying to enjoy the view." "The view?" laughed harshly. "Let me improve it for you." He moved fast, too fast for human eyes to follow, and suddenly was on the ground, his boot on his chest. "This is where you belong, human, in the dirt, beneath us." Didn't struggle. He just looked up at the prince with steady eyes. "Is this how royalty treats guests? Your father might not approve." Something flickered in his expression, a hint of uncertainty. He removed his boot and stepped back. "Enjoy your time here, human. It won't last long." He vanished into the shadows, leaving alone in the garden. Found him there an hour later, still sitting on the ground. "Are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "I heard what happened. That prince is a monster." "He's scared," said quietly. "Scared he attacked you?" "He attacked me because he's scared. His sister, who he probably grew up competing with, just brought home something completely unexpected. I'm a disruption. I change everything. He doesn't know how to handle that, so he uses violence." Stood up, brushing dirt from his clothes. "It's actually very human of him." Shook her head. "You're too forgiving." "I'm a medic. Forgiving is part of the job." But not everyone was as simple as Prince. On the seventh day, ate dinner with the nobles. The food looked strange: dark meats, purple vegetables, drinks that glowed faintly. He ate carefully, aware that every eye was on him. He didn't notice the poison until it hit him. The pain came suddenly, a fire in his stomach that spread through his body like lightning. He gasped, dropping his cup. The nobles around him smiled. "Oh dear," one of them said. "It seems the human cannot handle our cuisine." His vision blurred, his hands shook. He recognized the symptoms. He was a medic after all. This was poison designed to cause maximum suffering before death. But he was also a medic who had trained in hostile environments, who had learned to identify toxins and create antidotes from whatever was available. His eyes scanned the table. Purple vegetables. He remembered reading that similar plants on Earth were natural antidotes to certain poisons. The glowing drinks contained something that looked like activated minerals, and his own medical kit, which he always carried, had basic neutralizing agents. He grabbed the purple vegetable and crushed it in his hand, mixed it with the glowing drink, added a powder from his kit. His hands moved on instinct, even as his body screamed in pain. He drank the mixture. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. The nobles leaned forward, waiting for him to die. Then the pain began to fade. His vision cleared, his breathing steadied. Stood up slowly, looking at the nobles who had tried to kill him. "Thank you for dinner," he said calmly. "The food was interesting, but maybe next time use a better poison." He walked out of the dining hall with his head held high. Behind him, he heard gasps and whispers. A human had survived their assassination attempt. Impossible. Unheard of. News traveled fast. By morning, everyone in the palace knew what had happened. Lyra came to see him in his quarters. For the first time since they'd arrived, she looked something other than controlled. She looked impressed. "You created an antidote in seconds," she said. "While dying, how?" "I'm a medic, it's what I do." "No," she shook her head. "Other medics would have panicked, other medics would have died. You stayed calm, you thought, you acted." She stepped closer, studying his face. "You are more than you appear, Park." "So are you," he said quietly. She tilted her head. What do you mean? You act cold because you have to, but when you found out about the poison you came here first, before anything else, before politics or appearances. He met her eyes. You were worried about me. Lyra was silent for a long moment. Then, softly, she said something he never expected. Yes, I was. She turned to leave but stopped at the door. Yes. No one has ever asked me if I was happy before. No one except you. She didn't turn around. The answer is no. I haven't been happy in a very long time, but since you arrived, I feel something. I don't know what to call it yet. She left before he could respond. Sat in his room, surrounded by alien shadows on an alien world, and smiled. Maybe there was hope after all. 3 weeks had passed since arrived on Prime. 3 weeks of assassination attempts, poisoned food, and constant danger. He had survived them all, but he knew his luck would not last forever. Someone powerful wanted him dead, and they were getting more desperate. He needed to understand why. The Imperial Library was forbidden to outsiders, but had found a servant who was willing to help for a price. Traded his medical services for access. Apparently, even got sick sometimes, and human medicine offered solutions their own healers had never considered. The library was vast, filled with books and scrolls that were older than human civilization. Couldn't read their language but had been studying hard. Together, they searched through ancient texts, looking for anything about thee and its connection to humans. They found it on the fourth night. His voice was shaking. You need to see this. He rushed to her side. She was holding an old scroll, its edges crumbling with age. Her face was pale in the dim light. What does it say? Swallowed hard, it says, humans didn't evolve naturally, we were created by the. The words hit like a physical blow. What? Thousands of years ago, the Empire launched something called the Seeding Project. They spread their genetic material across hundreds of worlds, creating species that could serve as food sources, blood farms. Hands trembled. Earth was one of those worlds. We were designed to be livestock. That's why our blood is compatible with theirs. That's why they see us as prey. Sat down heavily. His mind raced through the implications. Humanity, all of human history, all of human achievement, had started as a farming experiment. They were cattle who had learned to think. There's more, said quietly. Of course there is. The project failed. Or rather, it succeeded too well. Humans evolved beyond the original design. We developed resistance, adaptability, emotional depth that they had bred out of themselves. Our blood became more than food. It became something powerful, something the ruling class feared. Why would they fear us? Pointed to a passage in the scroll. Because if human blood mixes with royal blood it could awaken abilities that have been dormant for. The ancient were much more powerful than they are today. They had gifts that were lost over generations of careful breeding. Human genetics could restore those gifts. Understood now. That's why they want to kill me. It's not about purity or tradition. It's about power. They're afraid that if Lyra bonds with me, she'll become more powerful than any of them. Not just powerful, said. According to this, the combination could create something new, something that is neither fully human nor fully, a hybrid that inherits the strengths of both species. They sat in silence, surrounded by the weight of ancient secrets. We need to tell Lyra, finally said. Are you sure? This is her people's darkest secret. How do you think she'll react? I don't know, but she deserves to know the truth. We all do. Finding Lyra alone was not easy. She was always surrounded by guards, advisors, or nobles seeking her attention, but waited until late at night when the palace was quiet and went to her private chambers. She opened the door before he could knock. I knew you would come, she said. I could feel your heartbeat approaching. What troubles you? Handed her the scroll. I found this in the library. You need to read it. Lyra's eyes moved across the ancient text. As she read, her expression changed. from curiosity to shock to something darker. When she finished, she was gripping the scroll so hard it began to tear. "You know what this means," said. "Yes," her voice was barely a whisper. "Everything I was taught about humans, about my own history, it was lies. We created you, then we feared what you became. The attempts on my life, on your life too, they're connected to this. Someone wants to stop them because they're afraid of what we might become together." Lyra looked at him with new eyes. "You are taking this remarkably well. I just told you that your species was created to be food, and you are standing here calmly." Shrugged, "I'm a medic. I've seen worse things than uncomfortable truths. Besides, what matters is what we do now, not where we came from. Humans have spent our entire existence being underestimated. This doesn't change who we are, it just explains why others fear us." "You truly are strange," Lyra said, but there was warmth in her voice now, something like admiration. "So who is behind this? Who wants us dead?" Lyra was quiet for a moment. "High Elder leads the purest faction on the council. He has always opposed any connection with other species, but I never understood why his hatred ran so deep." She looked at the scroll again. "Now I know. He must have known about the seeding project. He must have known what human blood could do. Then we need to expose him. It is not that simple, has support from half the council. He has military connections, spy networks, assassins in every shadow. If we move against him without proof, he will destroy us." Thought for a moment. "Then we get proof. We find evidence of his involvement in the assassination attempts. We show everyone that he's not protecting purity, he's protecting his own power. That would require getting close to him, close enough to uncover his secrets." Lyra shook her head. "He would see through any deception I attempted." "What about me?" "What do you mean?" Stepped forward. "Everyone here sees me as weak, harmless, a human pet that Lyra keeps around for amusement, underestimates me just like everyone else does. Let me use that." "You would put yourself in danger." "I've been in danger since the moment you grabbed my wrist. At least this time, I'd be choosing it myself." Lyra stared at him for a long time. The cold mask she always wore was completely gone now. In its place was something raw, fear, hope, and something else that couldn't quite name. "You saved my life the day we met," she said slowly. "You did not know me. You did not expect reward. And now you offer to risk everything again for a truth that does not even benefit your own species." "It does benefit us," said. "If we don't stop, he'll kill us both. Then he'll probably start a war with humanity. Billions of people could die because one ancient vampire is afraid of change. You care about billions of strangers. I'm a medic. Everyone's a stranger until you learn their name." Lyra reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were cold, but her touch was gentle. "I have lived for 300 years, she said softly. "I have met warriors, scholars, kings, and killers. None of them have surprised me the way you do. None of them have made me feel." She stopped, searching for words. "Feel what?" "Hope," she finally said. "You make me feel hope. I had forgotten what that was like." Covered her hand with his own. "Then let's do something worth hopping for. Let's stop. Let's show everyone, and human alike, that fear doesn't have to win." Lyra smiled. It was the most beautiful thing had ever seen. "Very well," she said. "We fight together, but first there is something you must know." "What?" Her expression grew serious. "The ceremony is in 1 week. If we are going to complete it before makes his move, we must prepare, and the ceremony will change you. Forever." "Change me how?" "I do not fully know. No human has ever the ritual, but the texts say you will become something new, something between our worlds." She paused. "You may never be fully human again." Thought about his life on Earth, his small apartment, his simple routines. All of that seemed so far away now. "I stopped being fully human the moment I stepped onto that ship," he said. "Whatever comes next, I'm ready." He hoped that was true, because the storm was coming and they were running out of time. The night before the ceremony could not sleep. He stood on the balcony of his room, watching the twin moons of Prime drift slowly across the purple sky. Tomorrow, everything would change. He might not survive, and if he did survive, he would never be the same person again. Found him there, just as she always did when he needed a friend. "Thinking about running away?" she asked, joining him at the railing. "I'd never make it past the guards." "That's not what I asked." Smiled sadly. "Maybe a little, is that cowardly?" "It's human," stood beside him, looking up at the moons. "I've known you for 5 years. You're the bravest person I know, not because you're never afraid, but because you act anyway. But this," she shook her head, "this is different. You're not treating a patient or running into danger to save someone. You're letting someone change your very nature." "I know. Do you love her?" The question caught him off guard. He thought about Lyra, her cold mask and the warmth beneath it, her strength and her loneliness, the way she looked at him like he was the first real thing she had seen in centuries. "I don't know," he admitted. "I care about her. I want to protect her. I want to see who she could be if she wasn't afraid all the time. Is that love?" "It sounds like the beginning of it." Turned to face his friend. "What about you? You followed me to an alien world. You've stayed with me through assassination attempts and political nightmares. Why?" Was quiet for a moment. "Because you're my best friend, because I believe in what you're doing, and because someone has to keep you alive long enough to actually change something." She punched his arm lightly. "Besides, alien medicine is fascinating. Did you know they can regenerate entire organs? I'm learning so much." Laughed. It felt good to laugh. "Whatever happens tomorrow," said, "remember that you're not doing this alone. You have me. You have Lyra. And apparently you have the fate of 2 civilizations riding on your shoulders. No pressure." "Thanks, that helps a lot." "I know." She hugged him tightly. "Now get some sleep. You're getting married to a vampire princess tomorrow and you look terrible." The ceremony chamber was deep beneath the imperial palace, carved from black stone that seemed to absorb light. Ancient symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly with blue energy. Only a handful of witnesses were permitted: the emperor, a few trusted nobles, and who refused to leave side. Prince was there too, standing in the shadows. His expression was unreadable. Lyra waited at the center of the chamber, dressed in robes of deep crimson. Her silver hair was loose, falling around her shoulders like moonlight. She had never looked more beautiful or more frightening. Walked toward her, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He wore simple white clothes, the color of sacrifice, Lyra had explained, the color of transformation. They faced each other across a small altar. On the altar sat 2 cups made of black crystal. "We stand here to witness the," Emperor announced. His ancient voice filled the chamber. "2 souls have found each other across the void. Tonight they become one." A priest in dark robes approached the altar. He produced a silver knife, its blade curved and sharp. "The bond requires an exchange," the priest said. "Blood for blood, life for life. From this moment you will share everything: your strength, your weakness, your fate, your future." Lyra took the knife first. Without hesitation she drew it across her palm. Dark blood, almost black, flowed into one of the crystal cups. She handed the knife to. He took it with steady hands. He had performed surgery countless times. He had seen more blood than most people could imagine. But this was different. This was his own blood, given freely, changing everything. He cut his palm. Red blood fell into the second cup, bright against the darkness, like a spark of fire. The priest took both cups and mixed them together. The 2 bloods swirled and combined, creating something new. The mixture began to glow with a soft, golden light. "Drink," the priest commanded, "and let the bond be complete." Lyra took the cup first. She looked at one last time, a question in her eyes. "Are you certain?" He nodded. She drank half the mixture. Then she offered the cup to him. Took it. The liquid was warm against his lips. It tasted like nothing he had ever experienced, like fire and ice, like starlight and shadow, like every emotion he had ever felt concentrated into a single moment. He drank. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the world exploded. Pain shot through his body, but not just pain, power. He felt his cells changing, adapting, becoming something new. His senses expanded beyond anything human. He could hear the heartbeats of everyone in the room. He could smell the ancient stone and the blood on the altar. He could see in the darkness as if it were daylight. And he could feel Lyra. Not just beside him, inside him. Her presence filled his mind like a second heartbeat. He felt her fear, her hope, her fierce determination. And beneath it all, he felt something else. A warm, growing emotion that neither of them had dared to name. Across from him, Lyra gasped. Her crimson eyes were changing. Golden light spread through them, replacing the red. She trembled, her body radiating power that made the air itself vibrate. Impossible, Emperor whispered. The golden eyes, they have not appeared in 10,000 years. The priest fell to his knees. The ancient bloodline awakens. The prophecy is fulfilled. Didn't understand what was happening. He only knew that he could feel everything Lyra felt, and she could feel him. There were no more secrets between them, no more masks. They saw each other completely. And in that moment of perfect understanding, they both realized the truth. This was not just politics. This was not just survival. This was love. When the transformation finally settled, found he could still think, still feel, still be himself. But he was also more. His body was stronger, faster, more resilient. His senses were sharper than any human's, and the connection to Lyra was like a golden thread between their hearts, impossible to break. Lyra's new golden eyes shone with wonder. I can feel everything, she whispered. The power of the Ancient Ones flows through me, and through you. She reached for his hand, and when their fingers touched, energy crackled between them. What does this mean? Asked. It means we are bound forever. It means my power has awakened to levels not seen since the founding of the Empire. She smiled, fierce and beautiful. And it means has every reason to be afraid. As if summoned by her words, the chamber doors burst open. A guard rushed in, his face pale with fear. Your Majesty, High Elder has launched his coup. His forces are seizing the palace. The Emperor stood, ancient fury burning in his eyes. He dares strike now during a sacred ceremony. He had to, Lyra said grimly. He felt the awakening. He knows what I have become. If he doesn't stop us now, he never will. The sounds of battle echoed from somewhere above, shouts, clashing metal, screams. Squeezed Lyra's hand. Through their bond, he felt her resolve, her anger, her readiness to fight. Then we fight together, he said, just like we planned. Stepped forward, her medical kit ready. I'm coming too. You're going to need someone to patch you up when this is over. Prince emerged from the shadows. For a moment, thought he would attack, but instead the prince drew his sword and stood beside them. I may not like you human, said grudgingly, but I refuse to let traitors destroy my family. Today, we fight on the same side. Nodded, I'll take it. The newly bonded pair led the way out of the chamber, their combined power lighting the darkness like a beacon. The war for the future had begun. The imperial palace had become a battlefield. Forces moved through the corridors like shadows, cutting down anyone who stood in their way. They had planned this attack for decades, every guard position mapped, every escape route blocked, every loyal servant marked for death. But they had not planned for Park. The newly bonded couple fought their way through the palace, Lyra's awakened power blazing like golden fire. She moved faster than before, hit harder than before, and seemed to know where enemies were hiding before they could strike. Through their connection, fed her information, patterns he noticed, weaknesses he spotted, strategies he developed. Humans might be physically weaker than, but their minds worked differently. While they had fought the same way for, humans had evolved in constant conflict with each other. They were creative, unpredictable, and dangerously clever. Soldiers kept expecting a straight fight. They kept losing. "Left corridor, 3 guards behind the pillar," said through the bond. Lyra spun without looking, her blade finding each target with perfect precision. "How did you know?" "They're breathing. They were trying too hard to be silent. Humans do the same thing when they're hiding." They reached the Emperor's personal quarters to find holding off a dozen attackers. The ancient ruler was powerful, but age had weakened him. He would not last much longer. Prince charged into the fight without hesitation, his blade a blur of silver death. Whatever his faults, he fought like a true prince of the blood. Stayed back, protecting and looking for opportunities. He couldn't match the in direct combat, even with his enhanced abilities. But combat wasn't just about strength. He spotted a chandelier above the enemy group, heavy, ancient, held by a single chain. A thrown scalpel from his medical kit severed the weakened chain. The chandelier fell, crushing 3 enemies instantly and scattering the rest. In the chaos, Lyra finished them quickly. Emperor looked at with something like respect. Clever for a human. Medics learn to use whatever tools are available. "Your Majesty, can you reach the safe room?" "Yes, but controls the outer defenses. His warships are blockading the planet. Even if we survive this night, we cannot escape." Through the bond, Lyra felt's mind racing. She saw fragments of thoughts, strategies forming, possibilities being calculated, plans taking shape. "The horizon," said suddenly. "Captain Lee and the human fleet. They were supposed to stay in orbit until the ceremony finished." A handful of human ships against the Armada, laughed bitterly. They would be destroyed in seconds. "Maybe not," turned to Lyra. "Can you contact them, send a message?" "Through what?" "Controls all communications." "Then we need to take back control." Eyes found a window overlooking the palace courtyard. Far below, he could see the communications tower and the soldiers guarding it. "I have an idea. You're not going to like it." 20 minutes later, was climbing down the side of the palace, alone. Lyra had argued fiercely against the plan. She could feel his fear through the bond. He was terrified. But she could also feel his determination. He truly believed this was the only way. "If you die, I will never forgive you," she had said. "Then I'd better not die." He reached the ground and moved through the shadows. His enhanced senses helped him avoid patrols, but his body was still mostly human. If they caught him, he was dead. The communications tower was guarded by 6 soldiers. Elite troops, heavily armed, alert. A direct assault was suicide. So didn't assault them directly. From his medical kit, he produced several small vials. One contained a sedative powerful enough to affect physiology. Another held a chemical that, when exposed to air, created a thick, choking smoke. He moved silently, placing the vials at strategic points around the tower. Then he threw a stone to draw attention. The guards turned toward the sound, triggered the smoke bombs. Chaos erupted. The guards couldn't see through the thick white cloud. They stumbled, coughing, swinging blindly, moved between them like a ghost, jabbing each one with the sedative. One by one they fell. When the smoke cleared, stood alone among unconscious soldiers. His hands were shaking, but he was alive. He entered the communications tower and sent a message on all human frequencies. "Captain Lee, this is Park. The Empire is experiencing a coup. Loyalists are trapped in the Imperial Palace. We need immediate assistance. Bring everything you have." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then Captain Lee's voice crackled through the speaker. "You're alive. We saw the warships and assumed the worst." "I'm alive, sir, but we won't be for long without help. There are 50 warships out there. We have 12 human vessels." "I know the odds, sir, but the enemy isn't expecting you. They think humans are weak, harmless, predictable. Show them how wrong they are. Another pause, then all ships' battle stations were going in. What followed would be remembered in history as the Battle of Prime. The human fleet dropped out of safe distance and drove straight toward the blockade. Every military expert would later say it was suicide. 12 ships against 50, with inferior weapons and armor. But humans didn't fight like expected. Instead of forming battle lines, the human ships scattered, using unpredictable patterns that no computer could anticipate. They targeted engines instead of bridges, communications instead of weapons. They didn't try to destroy the enemy fleet, they tried to confuse it. Captain Lee himself led the Horizon in a maneuver that pilots would study for generations. He flew directly at the largest enemy ship, waited until the last possible second, then veered away while launching a concentrated attack on the ship's sensor array. Blind and confused, the enemy flagship crashed into 2 of its own vessels. The commanders couldn't understand what was happening. Humans were supposed to be primitive. Their tactics were supposed to be simple. Instead, every engagement brought new surprises, new complications, new chaos. While the space battle raged, fought his way back to the palace. Lyra met him at the entrance, her golden eyes blazing with relief and something deeper. "You survived," she said. "I told you I would. My people are watching the battle. They see human ships flying circles around our elite fleet." A strange smile crossed her face. "They are beginning to understand what I saw in you from the beginning. Humans are not prey. Humans are partners." Together they pushed toward the council chambers, where had established his headquarters. The fighting was fierce, but the tide was turning. Loyalist forces, inspired by reports of the human fleet's success, fought with renewed determination. Finally, they reached the great doors of the council chambers. Waited inside with his personal guard, the most dangerous warriors in the Empire. "This ends now," Lyra said. She kicked open the doors. Stood at the far end of the chamber, surrounded by his elite soldiers. He looked older than before, more desperate, but his eyes still burned with hatred. "So the princess and her pet have come to die together," he sneered. "How romantic." Stepped forward. "It's over, your fleet is falling apart, your coup is failing. Surrender now and maybe you'll survive this." Laughed. "Surrender? To a human? I have fought wars for longer than your species has existed. I will not be defeated by livestock." "Then let's settle this." Drew a blade from his belt. "You and me. If I win, your soldiers stand down. If you win, you can kill us both." "No," Lyra said through the bond. "He is ancient, powerful, you cannot." "I have to try. This is what I do. I face impossible odds and find a way through." Studied him with cold amusement. "Very well, human. Let us see what you are truly made of." They circled each other in the center of the chamber. Knew he couldn't win in a fair fight, so he had no intention of fighting fair. Moved like liquid darkness. One moment he stood across the chamber, the next he was inches from, his claws reaching for the human's throat. But was no longer entirely human. His enhanced senses caught the movement before it was complete. He twisted away, feeling claws slice through the air where his neck had been a heartbeat before. "Interesting," said, circling again. "The bond has given you some of our gifts, but you are still weak, still fragile, still prey." "Maybe," admitted, "but prey learns to survive in ways predators never expect." He threw something from his pocket, not a weapon, but a handful of white powder. Laughed and batted it away effortlessly. That was his mistake. The powder exploded into brilliant light. It was a flash compound had created from materials in the medical bay, harmless to humans, but devastating to eyes that were designed for darkness. Screamed, temporarily blinded. He swung wildly, his attacks fierce but unfocused. Did not try to kill him. He couldn't. The ancient was far too powerful for that. Instead, he moved around like water around a stone, jabbing with a syringe whenever an opening appeared. The syringe contained the same compound he had created during his first assassination attempt, the one that neutralized healing. It wouldn't kill, but it would make him vulnerable. "What have you done?" snarled, feeling his body weakening. "I'm a medic," said calmly. "I don't cure diseases by fighting them head-on. I use the right treatment for the right problem." "You think this changes anything? I'm still stronger than you will ever be." Lunged forward with desperate fury. Even weakened, he was faster than could match. His claws found their target, slashing across his chest. Pain exploded through his body. He fell backward, blood spreading across his white robes. Through the bond, Lyra felt everything. His pain, his fear, his stubborn refusal to give up. And something else, a message sent directly from his mind to hers. "Now." Lyra moved faster than she had ever moved before. Her newly awakened power blazed like a sun, golden light flooding the chamber. She struck with everything she had, not just physical force, but the combined strength of two souls fighting as one. The ancient elder flew backward, crashing through a stone pillar. He tried to rise, but his weakened body would not obey. The healing that should have saved him was blocked by his compound. Lyra stood over him, her golden eyes burning. "It's over. Your army is defeated. Your coup has failed, and you have been beaten by the creatures you called livestock." Looked up at her with hatred that had burned for thousands of years. "You have doomed us all," he spat. "The humans will destroy everything we built. They will." "They will help us become something better," Lyra interrupted. "That is what you never understood. Humanity's strength is not in their bodies, it is in their spirit, their creativity, their ability to change and grow and find hope even in the darkest places." She glanced at who was being helped to his feet by. "They taught me that, and now they will teach our entire empire." She turned to her guards. "Take him to the cells. He will face justice for his crimes." As was dragged away, still cursing and threatening, Lyra rushed to his side. His wound was deep, but was already working on it, her hands steady and sure. "You could have died," Lyra said, her voice shaking for the first time. "But I didn't," managed a weak smile. "I told you medics don't fight fair." The aftermath of the coup was chaotic but hopeful. Followers surrendered once their leader was captured. The enemy fleet, damaged and confused by human tactics, retreated to distant space. Emperor declared the rebellion crushed. But the old emperor was wounded, both in body and spirit. He had seen his own council turn against him. He had watched his daughter bond with a human and awaken powers lost for. The world he had ruled for centuries was changing, and he knew his time was ending. 1 week after the battle, summoned Lyra into his private chambers. "I am dying," he said simply. "The wounds I suffered will not heal. I have perhaps a month remaining." Lyra's face showed no expression, but felt her grief through the bond. Complicated grief. She had never been close to her father, but he was still her father. "When I am gone, you will become empress," continued, "and your human will become prince consort. Together, you will rule an empire that spans 7-star systems." "I did not ask for this," Lyra said quietly. "No, but it is yours nonetheless." Looked at with ancient, tired eyes. "Human, I did not believe you were worthy of my daughter. I thought you would fail and the problem would solve itself. I was wrong." "Thank you, Your Majesty." "Do not thank me. I am giving you the hardest task imaginable, leading a people who have spent believing they were superior to all others. You will face resistance, hatred, and countless attempts on your life. The future will not be easy." Nodded, "I understand." "Do you?" Leaned forward. "Then tell me why. Why do you accept this burden? You could return to Earth, live out your life among your own kind. Why stay here?" Thought about the question. Through the bond, Lyra waited for his answer with something like fear. She was afraid he might leave even now. "Because I'm a medic," he finally said. My job is to save lives. When I look at I see a species that is sick, sick with fear, sick with arrogance, sick with the disease of believing they are better than everyone else. Lyra started healing that sickness. The bond started healing it. Now I want to help finish the job. He looked at Lyra and smiled. Besides, someone has to keep her out of trouble. Stared at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time in centuries, the ancient emperor laughed. "You truly are strange," he said. "Strange and brave and foolish. Perhaps that is exactly what we need." 1 year later, Empress Lyra addressed her people from the balcony of the imperial palace. Beside her stood Prince Consort, dressed in the black and gold of royalty. In the crowd below, humans stood together. Scientists, diplomats, soldiers, civilians. The first generation of a new alliance. "Today, we celebrate the first anniversary of the new dawn," Lyra announced. 1 year ago, our empire nearly destroyed itself through fear. We feared change. We feared difference. We feared the humans who had come to our stars. She paused, looking out at the mixed crowd. That fear was wrong. Humans have shown us what we had forgotten, that strength comes in many forms. They are not our livestock. They are not our prey. They are our partners, our teachers, and our friends. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Not everyone cheered. Some faces remained cold, suspicious, resistant. Change was slow, but it was happening. That night, Lyra stood alone on their private balcony, watching the twin moons rise. "Do you ever regret it?" Lyra asked softly. "Leaving Earth, binding yourself to me, becoming something that is neither fully human nor fully?" Considered the question. He could feel her anxiety through the bond. Even after a year, she sometimes feared he would grow tired of this alien world and want to leave. "Never," he said, "not for 1 second. Truly." He took her hand. "When I was a medic on Earth, I saved lives one at a time. Bandages and medicine in careful hands. I made a difference, but it was small. Now I get to help save 2 civilizations. I get to change history. I get to stand beside someone I love and build a future worth living." Lyra's golden eyes widened. "You said love." Did I? Smiled. "I suppose I did. Is that okay?" In answer, she kissed him. Far below, in the medical wing of the palace, trained the first class of the Human Medical Exchange Program. Human doctors and healers worked side by side, learning from each other, combining their knowledge into something new. In orbit, Captain Lee commanded a joint fleet of human and vessels, preparing for the next great mission, exploring the unknown reaches of the galaxy together. And somewhere in the great library, scholars uncovered more secrets of the ancient past, finding not just the story of how humans were created, but hints of other species, other worlds, other possibilities waiting to be discovered. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, but humanity was no longer alone in facing them. They had risen from prey to partners, from livestock to leaders. They had done it not through strength or violence, but through courage, creativity, and an endless capacity for hope. Park looked up at the stars and thought about all the medics on all the ships in all the worlds, saving lives one at a time. It had started with one human refusing to let a stranger die. It had ended with 2 civilizations learning to live together. And in the grand story of the galaxy, it was only the beginning.